Welcome, another edition of the Corvive Coaches Corner. Every week, talking to college coaches. Today, we're going to talk to one of the best coaching icons in all of college baseball. Good friend. We've talked before. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into the world of NAIA baseball. Head coach Dave Serrano. Skip, thank you for taking the time to join me today. I really appreciate it.
Walter, it's so great to be back on. I've been away for a while for obvious reasons. I've been pretty busy with my job and the things I do, but I watch all your podcasts, continue to get educated. Like I hope a lot of people are listening and listening loud. I'm going to go back to your latest one with Coach Adams from Clark State that I just saw last week. Was very impressed with his transparency about what it takes to play at the college level, what we're looking for as coaches. And I sure hope that parents and players are listening and taking in and not letting it go in one ear and out the other, because some of the stuff, and I'm not here to just pump your tires, Walter, but some of the stuff that's being said on here by coaches like myself is the truth. And I think people need to start taking account to that this is changing every single day. It's evolving. College baseball is evolving. It's not getting easier. It never was easy, but it's not getting easier. It's getting harder, and hard work and changing your body is very important. But I'm glad to be back on, Walter. It's a pleasure to be back on with you. But I love your show. I love what you're doing for the community of people in the recruiting industry.
You know, one of the things that you and I have talked about over the last several years is we're kind of returning, what is old is new again kind of thing. And, for all your years within, whether it's the West Coast out of Cal State Fullerton, SEC, Tennessee, Team USA, these roster sizes, they're basically back to where they used to be. Getting between the lines, it's back to being, it's a challenge. You have to be ready and have to be prepared. Can you just talk a little bit about the realities of college baseball today, as we are talking today in 2025, are simply that you have to be strong enough, both mentally and physically. You have to be skilled enough to be able to get between the lines and stay between the lines. And it's a daily competition. It doesn't end when you're recruited. Can you talk a little bit about having that mental and physical preparedness to be able to get between the lines and stay between the lines in today's world of college athletics?
Well, I'm going to go back to that's a great question. I'm going to go back to Coach Adams' interview the other day, and like I said, I listened to every word of it, and he was very transparent of the metrics of what they look for and what all these college coaches are looking for. But I'm going to add something to this, because I was never at places that always had the fortune of finding guys that were under 6'6" in the outfield, or 90 plus arms across the diamond, or catchers with 80-mile-an-hour arms from the crouch position. Is the awareness to play the game, the awareness on the field. And I think that's one thing. And you talked about the old and the new. That's the one thing that I think we've lost a little bit in the baseball world, is the field awareness, the baseball clock, where we're throwing the ball all the time, base running, which I think gets brushed under the rug. All we have to do is look at the World Series that we just saw,
Right.
the World Series with the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. The base running is gone. And that's the part where I'll take what Coach Adams said, because that's important metrics to get on the field. But more importantly is your baseball instincts. And those are the things, because kids aren't playing as much of the throwing the ball against the garage, or playing pickleball and all that kind of stuff, or playing pickle. It's they've lost those instincts. And I think that's the thing that nowadays, as I see, as I'm getting closer to the end of my career, is that when guys come to you, they're not as prepared. And I'm not blaming high school coaches at all. They're not as prepared because they don't watch baseball as much. They watch 5 to 10 second clips of guys hitting balls over the fence, or guys throwing 98 miles an hour with great spin rate, but they're not watching the game. I'm very old. I don't want to say very old, but I'm older. I've been around the game a long time, and I watched every pitch that I could of the Major League World Series, and I learned from that. I learned watching things and watching good things happen and bad things happen. But going back to your question, and I'm going to answer it very simply. I think people want things easy now, and getting on a roster, getting in a lineup, making a team, it's harder than it's ever been, and it's not going to be easy. And if you're able to accomplish that, then you're working towards something great, because it's not easy anymore. It's very difficult, more than ever, to be part of something special at any level of college baseball. I'm talking any level. I know so many people dream of Division I, but I'm at the NAIA level, and I don't know where that falls on the ladder in regards to JC, Division III, Division II. But I'm going to tell you that the program that we're building, it's hard to get on the field now. You don't just walk off a high school field, no matter what level you played, and just walk right in and say, I'm playing. We have good players now, and the competition is there, and they're physical. And coming out of high school, you're going to have to be ready to compete from day one.
You talk about NAIA and NCAA and JUCO. Really a rising tide lifts all ships. But when you first began your career at Johnson a few years ago to today, would you say the level of talent, whether it's at the Reinhardt, the Cumberlands, you played LSU Shreveport in the regional, would you say, really, to be honest, NAIA baseball is really a very high level skill, regardless of the team you're playing on, but it demands an elite skill set to play at the NAIA level?
I agree with that. And I tell a lot of people this, I tell recruits this. I don't walk on a field and during a game and think, oh, this is NAIA baseball. It's good baseball. And I'm going to tell you, for players that are interested, position player wise, it's not that big of a drop off. There is strong physical guys that can hit balls a long ways, and balls come off their bats pretty well. I'd say the difference for me of what I've noticed in 2 full seasons is the depth in the pitching staffs,
right,
compared to higher levels. I think position players are easier to come by at this level than it is to find. Everybody needs pitching at all levels, and starts with the major league level and then trickles down. And I think the pitching gets a little scarce after you're past number 4 or 5 on most teams. Some of the better teams, it might be 6 or 7, but there's a drastic drop off. But position player wise, I've said this now for a couple of years, Walter. If I'm a mid-major or I'm a Division II program, I'm looking to NAIA programs if I'm trying to fill a plug on the field somewhere, whether it's a shortstop, a center fielder, a catcher, a position player, because there are good players at this level that could play at the higher level if they were given that opportunity.
One of the things that you and I have talked about privately in various discussions, you're talking about some athletes do come into your program, from other parts of the country, not just Tennessee, California, maybe Arizona, but you do that knowing that they may end up, if they have a great season, may end up going back home, possibly to a Fullerton or a Mountain West type of conference. When you're out recruiting now, especially in this world of everybody thinks of the portal as a hopscotch event, just in one year, out the next. When you're recruiting, is that now part of your recruiting process when you're recruiting maybe a higher tier athlete from a different part of the country?
Well, that's since I've taken this job, Walter, that was one of the things that I asked my athletic director, his blessing to allow me to do, is that, obviously I want to be successful. I want to build the program, but I want to help kids. I want to help kids reach their highest highest level that they could go to. And every player that is recruited to Johnson, I tell them, you got to want to be coached. It's going to be about the team first, okay? But if you put up numbers, you do well in school, you put up numbers, and you show me every day that you could play at a higher level and practice and everything how you go about things, then I'll get on the phone at the end of the year and try to help you get somewhere else. And that's one of my recruiting ploys that I say to kids. If I could bring in a kid and he could help us be successful and he could be a good teammate, that's part of my job, is to help him get to a higher level. And that has happened a couple times already. But on the other side of it, we've had opportunities to get other guys out, but they've fallen in love with where Johnson is, what the program's about, and they wanted to finish their career there. So, I've seen both sides of it, but I don't like kids coming in thinking I'm going to go there for a year and then I'm going to bounce. I don't like that. You're where your feet are planted. You be the best version of yourself in that program, and if things are supposed to happen, they'll happen after. We just have signed some guys early, and I tell them, I always get asked by the player or the parent, okay, so what should I do now? And I said, what you should do is focus on your senior season. You commit to your teammates. You become the best player you can be for your high school team. We will be there 9 months from now, okay, when you walk on campus. But if you lose focus of where you're at the current moment, then a lot of things are going to fall apart for you.
Let's talk a little bit about that. We're in Knoxville, Tennessee, home of some pretty good college, community for college students. You got the checkerboard to your left. You got Johnson, which is a great small campus. It's a really vibrant area of the country, Knoxville, Tennessee. I would love for you to talk about when you first took the program over to where it is today. Today you're a regional caliber team. You're playing in LSU Shreveport, obviously the national champion last year. So there's a lot of success now at Johnson, as opposed to when you first took it on and you were building a program. Now you're maintaining the structure and the foundation. But talk a little bit about how you've developed that culture in such a short period of time at Johnson.
Well, I'm still building, as you know. I respect what you say, and that never going to get to the point where I'm just trying to maintain. We're still building. We still have a ways to go. It's happened pretty quickly. I think the standard and the structure, the standard came from the structure, I think that's what, and the standard has, and I'm not even one to sit here and say I'm proud of where we're at, but I wouldn't even say the standard is set yet. The culture, I believe, happened organically, and I think that's through people. The coaches I put around me, the players we've brought into the program. I would say I'll go all the way back to my very first year, the team that I inherited, that they started the culture just by being open-minded to change. It was a drastic change from our staff to the previous staff, and they could have fought that, and they didn't. And I think they set the foundation, even though we had just won 3 games over 500. That was a big jump from the year before. And then we take another big jump last year and make it to the regionals, finish the year ranked, and now we start the year this year ranked again. So we're building, we're gradually building, but until this program can get to Lewiston and play for a national championship, I won't look at this place as, I won't look at myself as trying to maintain anything. And I feel that's the difference with this year's team. We have a lot of work ahead of us. We've got a lot. We probably have the best collection of talent that I've had in my 3 years, and that's the way it should be after 3 years. Is last year they came in thinking we have a chance. This year they came back thinking, how far are we going this year? And that's just a different mindset. I think we put our uniform on, we come to practice every day knowing that we are a better program and we could play with some of the better teams in the country, and yet we'll still have to play good to be able to be successful against them. So I've seen a big change just because I said this the other day to somebody, players make a difference. You get good players in here and it changes a culture, it changes a standard. And we've been able to bring in good players and get people to believe in what we're doing. And that's what's allowed us to move the needle so quickly.
And the big thing here is I want to let parents and athletes know that there's a lot. If you look at the Johnson roster, not just the Johnson roster, but any NAIA school, you're made up now. Your roster consists of multiple states that these athletes are coming in from, not just the geographical area, the Southeast, it's the West Coast. But you touched on something that I really want parents to have a true understanding on: your coaching staff. Now, one of which, I want you to share the caliber of your coaching staff, from their perspective as former student athletes and now what they bring to the table to your current student athletes as coaches.
Well, it's the meat and potatoes of a program, and I get the wins and losses on my record, and I get to do things like this with you and talk to the people. But at the end of the day, because I was this the majority of my career, it's the assistant coaches that have the day and day feel for the team and have their finger on the pulse of what's going on. And I feel like I've surrounded myself with really good people. I started out my first year. I had a former player of mine, Zach Lingenfelter, who pitched me at Tennessee and played professional baseball. He went into the high school industry. I had Garrett Mosiello, who is now at Texas in a player development role. I had them start the program with me. And now I have Mason Graves, who was an NAIA player and came from a Division II program of coaching at LMU locally here. Very good offensive-minded guy that really focuses on. We stole like 156 bases last year. We're going to put pressure on our teams. He has a very good rapport with the position players. I basically allow him to run the offense. And then Kyle Serrano, my son, who played collegiate baseball at Tennessee for me and pitched for the Astros in minor league baseball and had other professional opportunities. He's running the pitching. And I think from a pitching perspective, it's a great deal because they have an old school coach like me that the umbrella of the pitching is under, and they have more of a new school that grew up old school in the household and in the dugout with me, working with the pitchers. So I think they get the best of both worlds. I've really allowed Kyle just to run with the pitching. And then I've got Tyler Shelton, who played in the program. He's my recruiting coordinator, who's done a great job of really helping me, because I'm very involved in recruiting, helping me recognize players around the country and open doors for me to reach out. Joey McCowan, another player that played locally and had played at East Tennessee State, left-handed pitcher, but now he's on the offensive side helping Mason. And then two wonderful grad assistants that played in the program my first year, Blake Corson, who's my right-hand man, is my director of baseball operations, and Ty Carter, who works with Kyle and is our bullpen coach. So I really feel like I've surrounded myself with good people, and that's what it's all about. I mean, it's about who you put around you. It's never going to be about you. It's about the people that are helping you. And I think that every day our players come to the field and they know they get the energy of this coaching staff, they get the information from this coaching staff, and we're giving them our best effort to developing them as people and as players.
You know, a lot of parents have this misconception that the NAIA, first of all, let's talk recruiting. There are no restrictions. You don't have any of those quiet periods, dead periods. You can call players, you can text players, you can invite them to campus. But one of the biggest dynamics, and I've said this so many times, but I don't think parents are listening, is that actual high school student athletes can come out and work out with and against your current members of your team. So can you explain that dynamic from a coaching perspective, what it allows you to see when you're recruiting a potential student athlete at Johnson?
It's a wonderful dynamic to have. In fact, one of my current players, Luke Wilson, our starting center fielder from California, him and his dad came out. His dad is a former big leaguer, Craig Wilson, who played for the Pirates and the Yankees. And he came out. He's from Southern California. He came out, and people had really raved about him as a player. And he came out, and it was a weekend. We had a weekend series. I put him in a full uni. He went through the pregame BP. He shagged balls in center field, and he took BP on our field. And so he got to go through a live game, pregame BP in full uni, and it's legal to do. We have pitchers come out all the time and throw bullpens for us. We'll have infielders come out and go through a practice with us. And I think from a coaching perspective of us recruiting them, but more importantly, the players' perspective, that they get to be on the field and see exactly what a program's doing. That's the one thing, Walter, that I feel is missing in this recruiting piece for families, is they go to campuses, they see how beautiful the campus is, they get to meet the coaching staff and say, oh, that coaching staff is great. They got to remember it's a recruiting visit, okay?
Right.
But they don't get the interaction with the players and the guys that they're going to be spending all their time with. They're going to be with us about 20% of the time of their career. They're going to be with their teammates 100% of the time. The other 80%, I mean, is because they're living with them, they're going out with them, they're hanging out with them, and you got to know the people that you're allowing your kids to be around on a daily basis. And I think too many times recruits go to campuses and they don't see the bread and butter of who are going to be my teammates. Now, I know guys graduate and move on, eligibility, professional baseball, but the culture is going to kind of be the same kind of people that a coaching staff is attracting to campus.
Well, I know your response to this, but I feel like I need another hammer, because I genuinely feel that even after 4 years, when you and I would do these types of interviews together with coaches, we kept hearing the word physicality. This goes back to like 2022, 2023. We heard physicality. And parents were like, okay, well, my son's really talented. But when we talk physicality, it's size, it's speed, it's a metric that is a must have in order to get between the lines, not because you want it, it's because it's required in order to be competitive as a student athlete. So as a 2027, 2028, high school student, what words of advice would you give with regard to serviceable strength in order to prepare for college athletics?
I might not be politically correct when I say this, but I would say parents are investing a lot of money to ship their kids around, whether it's travel ball, whether it's different showcases, there's stuff all over the country. I get it. Okay. And you want to, I'm a parent first. Okay. You want to put your kids in the best scenario and the most visible situation possible, but find a speed trainer, find a strength train guy. To me, especially out that far, the 20s, 27s, and 28s, Walter, I'm not a huge metrics guy. Okay, I'm not. I'm into baseball players. I was never that coach that always had a stopwatch, always had a radar gun. My eyes told me that this guy was a good player. I wasn't always right, but I was more right than I was wrong. Okay. But for me, like I'm at showcases, I see things, and I know the metrics don't play a lot. But if somebody told me my son's a 2027 and he's 5'10", 155 pounds, I don't even have to see this player. 5'10", 155 pounds. He runs a 7.4 60. His exit velo is 84 miles an hour off the bat, and his arm strength is 79 miles across the diamond. I don't even have to see that player to say that guy is a long ways away from ever stepping on a college baseball field. Okay. And I think sometimes we as parents have got to look realistic and be realistic about where is my son now and where can he be 2 or 3 years down the line if he gets the correct training, especially in today's world. 15 years ago, Walter, I might recruit that guy at a Cal State Fullerton because he projects. He has baseball skills to project. We're not on that time scale anymore. You don't have 2 years to develop in a program anymore. You have about a semester to develop. And if you're not prepared, December 1st, you're being told that you're probably not going to make the team. So everything is escalated, but it's about physicality. I still say play as much baseball as possible. Okay, go out and play, develop. That's how you develop. But put a focus on what is really going to allow you to prosper, and that is speed, twitchiness, strength training, and flexibility. I see more than ever players that just aren't flexible anymore of moving around the baseball diamond and foot speed. So those are all things for me that are important that I think college coaches are looking at, and those are what are going to allow you to leapfrog guys at the next level.
Last question, Coach, and that is, you just touched upon a date that really has never been part of the vernacular before, which is December 1st at the Division I level. I don't think parents or athletes at the high school level have enough understanding of what's about to possibly occur. But can you just share that new dynamic of college baseball is definitely going to have a ripple effect across all of college baseball with regard to rosters in the spring of 2026. Can you just talk a little bit about that as a new wrinkle with regard to recruiting?
Well, I think right now what's going on across the country, depending on what part of the country you're in, is programs are finishing their fall workouts. And like we are at Johnson, we'll start our individual meetings later this week and start being very transparent with our players about where they stand in the program. Now, we're different. We're not going to cut guys. Unless guys aren't happy with what their role is in the program as of today or as of this week. But that'll be the same thing that happens at all levels, is that but it could be a little different at the Division I level because now the roster caps. And so the Jimmies and the Johns are going to be brought in and saying, unfortunately, you didn't have a good fall. There's guys ahead of you, and you're going to have to transfer because we don't have room for you. It's really sad. I say that information very sad, Walter, because, we're in the age of social media, and it's almost like everyone races to a decision to be able to put their post out of where they're going to school. And then about 3 months later, or maybe later, unfortunately, if the program goes and sees him and he hasn't gotten better, Then he has to post that he's decommitting from that school. And then they get excited when they get on campus. They made it to a Division I campus or a college campus. And then they don't realize I've got to really compete over the next 2 or 3 months or I might lose my job. The reality is that's real life. Unfortunately, that shouldn't be real life for that 18 and 19-year-old going through college athletics. I've said this to you many a times on this show with you, Walter, that I wouldn't be sitting with you on this show. I wouldn't have had all the blessings I've been given in college baseball if these rules were intact back when I played. I probably would have been cut, and I'd probably be in a different industry, and it probably wouldn't be college athletics. And so there's a sadness to it, but I think more importantly, I think people need to realize the reality to it. There is a reality to this. And December 1st is another reality of, well, I'm at so-and-so university, and I've gone to all the football games, and I went to 6 a.m. weights, but you know what? I may not make this team, and I may be searching in after December 1st. And I'm not making this into an infomercial, but if you are, we're looking for pitchers at the break. We've got a good team. I need some depth on the mound. And if you're a pitcher that needs a chance, an opportunity to come play, Johnson University is a great first call.
And oh, by the way, Coach Johnson's information available in the Baseball Blue Book, but also in the description below. But you can find Johnson Baseball on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can find him on all the social media platforms. Coach Serrano is active on the social media platforms as well. But I'll have all that contact information down below in both the podcasts as well as the videos. Skip, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. Best of luck. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holiday season ahead. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Walter, it's a pleasure to be on. Thank you for what you're doing, that you're spreading the word to so many people. And I just hope that many people are taking you seriously for the advice you're trying to give them on the direction for their loved ones.
Well, I appreciate your kind words, Coach. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Thank you, you too, Walter.